So I have talked a lot about self-love and learning to love and support yourself, irrespectively of what other people think of you or what they say about you or whatever you think that they might say about you, right? But I've come to realize that self-love is not the only thing that is going to help you get through this life. Because in the end, if you're only there for yourself, if you are the only one there for yourself, it is still going to be lonely. And if you are doing something and there is no one that is cheering you on doing that thing, or maybe there is someone, but you just think that these people are doing it just because they are your friend or they are your family and they will support you no matter what, just like you would support yourself no matter what, right? Because that is what self-love entails. Then there's no one else out there who comes to you and say, hey, you're doing a good job, right? No one who truly means it, truly based on the thing that you're doing, not just because they're kind of oath-bound in some way, right? Because, oh, we are friends, so we have to support each other now. I can support my friends even though I do not necessarily, even if I would not necessarily support that thing that they're doing if I didn't know them, right? It's different. It's different because it's a self-sustaining environment. And that is based on, like, how to say, us keeping each other alive kind of thing. But just because you give something to me, I will give something to you. You know, it's different. And I cannot explain exactly why it's different, but it just is. And I know that you can understand and feel the same thing probably. What we need is just being seen by others and not only being seen. I mean, I can be seen. My work can be seen by people. But if it's not appreciated, right? If I'm doing something and no one says, just purely because they really feel that way, like, oh my God, you're doing an amazing job, then why would I still be doing this, right? Even though I would support myself to the end, even though I trained my brain into thinking positive things about whatever I'm doing, even if you've done all this mental work, like, I don't know, what is that called? The things, the trends that are going on about, I deserve this and that, and like setting your mind into the right direction and aligning with the right frequency of the universe so that whatever you want, you will get. Even if you do all of that, it's not always going to be exactly like that. I think there is a huge amount of just luck, sheer luck, and coincidences going on in there. And I could not explain, just like we cannot explain or argue that this aligning your thoughts with your future or with some kind of vibration is actually a thing, right? There is no evidence for that. It is just, probably, I would say it's just a form of faith. And faith is something that keeps you going because it takes away the fear. It takes away the blockage, the mental blockage. Because if I do not have faith in whatever I'm doing, I'm going to doubt myself and I'm going to get into my head and going to critique everything. And this criticism, this self-criticism actually is, or this perceived criticism, is what is going to stop us from doing it. But if we have faith, whatever the reason for that faith is, whether it is because I have faith that God will always give me the best thing, right? Or that God has a plan for me and this must be it. Or that I've done the mental work, I've aligned myself with the vibrations of the universe. Then I have this faith that whatever I'm doing, it will be granted for me, right? I have faith that I'm doing the right thing. And even if I'm not doing the right thing, the universe will set its way so that it will become the right thing in some way. That's the faith I have. And then that keeps me going. Okay, but the thing is that really what is going to keep you going all the way to the end? Because for me personally, and maybe, I don't know about others, because here's the thing, we only see success stories, right? This is actually a thing. And I'm sure you've seen this yourself too, that the people you see on Instagram or other social media platforms, these are always the people that have made it. And they are telling like, yeah, you should do this and you should do that. But in the end, there are so many factors that we cannot control. And because there are so many factors, the factor of coincidence is just going to get bigger and bigger because we cannot control it. So what is going to control it? Something that we call coincidence. That is something that we cannot control, right? But it happens. If it didn't happen, we wouldn't call it coincidence because it didn't happen. Then it's just misfortune maybe, or it wasn't meant to be, but it's not going to be coincidence because I wanted it and it didn't come. So, well, it's bad luck maybe, or it wasn't meant to be. But if I wanted it and it came to me, then it's suddenly a coincidence and the universe has aligned with me or something like that. And I'm not saying that it's not true. I mean, I cannot prove whether it's true or not. But it's just very frustrating that there are these people out there that are just promoting this way of thinking and doing, and they keep saying like, if you really want it, you will get it, right? Or if you really believe you can do it, you can actually do it. That is not true. I think, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but in the end, we don't control everything. We cannot set the world to our hands or to our mind. We cannot always create the dreams that we have, even though people say we can, right? I think what I mean is that we should try at least. And if you don't have a dream, it's really sad because there's nothing that you live for. So as long as you have a dream and you try to get there, you're living for something and you have a purpose in life. So of course I'm going to tell you to go and try to reach that dream, to fulfill that dream, to make it real, right? Because if I'm telling you right now that you should give up on your dream because you're never going to get there anyways, first of all, I cannot be sure about that. Second of all, it would probably make you very depressed, because what's the point of life if we cannot do whatever we want, right? Well, that's a very good question. But that's not the point of this talk right now, at least not. So, I forgot what I was talking about. Let me just take a second to reorganize my thoughts. Okay, I remember. What I was saying is that there are a lot of factors, like I said, that we cannot control. For example, money. That is already the most prominent reason that we cannot always attain or realize our dreams, right? Just because we don't have the money. This is also connected to our environment, so to say. So the place that we live in, the resources that we have. Let's say there is a kid that wants to become an actor. First of all, what makes this kid want to become an actor, right? Maybe they've seen a film or something. But let's say there is a theater school in their neighborhood, and they've attend to some classes, or maybe their school has some kind of theater club. Then there is this opportunity for them to find out about theater or acting or whatever. And if there is a theater school in their neighborhood and their parents are wealthy enough and supportive enough, that's also a thing that we should not overlook. Then this kid might go to theater school, and then they think by themselves like, oh, this is actually really nice. I want to pursue this career maybe. And then after primary school, they maybe go to a high school that is especially for the arts, probably, or theater school or whatever. Maybe there's something like that. I know that in some countries they have that. But again, this school needs to be somewhere where they can get easily. Like if it's on the other side of the country and you live in a very big country, it's obviously not going to work unless, again, your parents are very wealthy and supportive and can make some adjustments for that. Maybe you can live in dorms or whatever. But those are all opportunities that you must have, right? If you are a kid and there is no such thing as a theater school in your neighborhood or in your city or in your town or whatever, and for example your school doesn't do anything with theater, then how are you going to get that opportunity to get in touch with that thing? Same thing with singing. For example, I wasn't born with things like singing. Like in school we did sing, but it wasn't like singing lessons. It was just like Christian songs that we had to sing. But for example, my friend, she was in church and she saw this opera singer in church and she was like, I want to do that. And her parents were very supportive and they sent her to some kind of teacher or school especially for that. And I was at a very young age. So now she is an opera singer. And I have never learned to sing because in my neighborhood there is nothing, no opportunities for that. Just recently they opened a pop school or something, but it's very expensive. And probably my parents wouldn't have supported me going to that school. So there you are. That's what I want to say. It's you need the opportunities. You need the right circumstances to start with. Just like with leadership, what determines which person is going to be the leader in which time and which place? There are so many factors that we cannot control, because obviously we can control our charismatics, right? Our charism. I can do some training in rhetorics. I can learn to speak in public. I can learn to write speeches and stuff. I can learn how to be more charismatic. But I cannot control the things happening around us in the world. For example, Greta Thunberg, it's a coincidence, I would say, that she was there and now she's become this kind of icon. It could have been any other kid or any other person if they were in the right position, in the right time, in the right, there are so many. She didn't plan to become that. And even if she planned, there are probably other people who plans to do such a thing, to become something. But sometimes you just need luck or the right timing, right? For example, if you are a minority in a society where the minority is oppressed a lot, and you're going to publish a book about your life, for example, it's pretty big chance, especially if that minority is not really well known, that no one is going to read that book, right? It's not interesting. But as soon as this minority is coming up on the social ladder, and there's awareness about this minority being there, and you're just gaining some kind of social status, then all of a sudden, if you publish that same book, it's going to raise a lot more interest, right? People are going to be much more interested in that. So it's also a point of the right timing. And I can say oh, well, you can control that, right? You can control when you are going to publish that book, but you cannot control the circumstances. So you can wait for however long, but you're not going to be sure that ever is going to be that time for you to shine, right? And do you want to wait your whole life for that? Maybe it's never going to come. So I wouldn't say that it is a factor that we can control, not as such at least. But anyways, enough about the factors that we cannot control. Because what I actually wanted to say is that if we don't get appreciated for the things that we do, then self-love is a funny thing. It's nice, it's good to have, but it's not going to... Well, the question is actually, is it going to be enough for us to pursue and go on to the end? And the end is whenever you decide to stop, or whenever life decides to stop. Because for me, I've been doing stuff for more than 5-6 years now, and people around me are saying, yeah, you should do it, you're good at this, and blah, 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 and people will like it, and I'm doing it, and no one is liking it. Or my family and friends are liking it, probably. Maybe they just like it, giving it a heart, but not liking it good enough to actually give me money for it. And even just random people on the internet don't seem to notice the things that I do, even though I try a lot to promote things. And if you do things on the internet, you always have this enemy, which is called algorithm, and it's invisible and it's always changing, and you don't know where in the algorithm you are, right? If you're fighting the algorithm on Instagram, sometimes there's no way in fighting it, because you've been put somewhere down in the social ladder of the algorithm, and they will not give you a chance to climb it, because you've been demoted somehow, because you did something wrong, or you didn't post every day, or whatever. You've existed for too long, and you have not have enough followers for such a long time, so no one is going to be interested in you, so they're not going to push your content forward, and you're just going to get in this downward spiral, right? I don't want to be pathetic about this. I don't talk about it to get sympathy from people. I'm just wondering if there is other people who experience the same thing. Because for me, because I cannot see other people failing, because that is never going to be shown, right? Like I was saying in the beginning, we only see the success stories. But from my point of view, the whole world is succeeding in things, and I am not. I am failing. And that is very delusional. Is that a word? And very, how to say in English? It keeps you from going, right? It's demotivating. You don't, because you try so hard and you see everyone around you is succeeding, and yet here you are trying so hard, doing the rules, researching the right things, doing your research, doing the work, doing the mental work, doing the real work, and yet you're not getting anywhere. You're not getting any success. What is it that they do that you don't? Well, that's a very frustrating situation to be in, first of all, and I think it has a lot to do with those coincidental factors, the factors that we cannot control, right? That I was talking about. So if there are any other people out there who experience the same thing, I would like to know how that affects them in their motivation to keep going. Because for me, even though I support myself, right? Even though I'm well, I think I'm doing a good job. I see improvement in my work, in my skills. But still other people apparently aren't thinking the same thing, or I cannot see visual proof that other people actually like my stuff as much as I do. That the appreciation for my work is not going where I would expect it to be going based on the improvements that I make and the efforts that I put in it, right? Then is this motivation going to be bigger than my own motivation? So the demotivation of not being appreciated for whatever I do, for reasons that cannot be explained, cannot be seen, no one is going to tell you. Because that's also a thing. There is no engagement. If there's no appreciation, that's mostly because there is no engagement with your content, right? There's no comments, there's no likes, there's no shares, there is no subscriptions. And even if there is likes or subscriptions, if there is no comment, you still don't know what people think about it. And yes, I know I said that it's not important what other people think about your work as long as you like it and support yourself. That's a very healthy mindset. I would certainly, that's what I keep saying, right? But still, it's not going to take away the loneliness and the demotivation and this frustration and the feeling that you're not good enough. Because yes, I think I'm good enough, but apparently no one else thinks I'm good enough or worth it, right? To be appreciated for whatever I do, for whatever reason. And maybe there is no reason, right? But we will never know. And it's okay to feel that way, even though you can say that, well, if you really love yourself and you're like totally immune to whatever people think about you, then this lack of engagement should also not be bothering you. But it still does. Because wouldn't it bother you, I should say, if you'd walk the earth loving yourself, but never having any engagement with any person in this world, never anyone notices you. You're just walking there as if you're a ghost and no one sees you. And yes, you are so much in love with yourself. Are you going to survive that world? Because I don't think so. So the point is that self-love is the foundation on which we can build relations with other people, right? Interactions. Because we're confident enough to be ourselves and to be out in the world and to present ourselves and to show ourselves and to interact with other people. Self-love is that layer of protection that we need to be confident enough to dare to step out into the wide world where we don't know anyone. We don't have to be afraid. We can still be afraid of other people's, their opinions, but they don't matter that much anymore because we are strong enough, because we love ourselves. But on top of that foundation, we need also more, right? We have the fertile ground, but if there is no flowers, what's it worth, right? We need someone else to put the flowers in there too. We cannot do everything ourselves. And I do not have a solution for this. But it's just something I noticed and something that I would like to know if other people have this too, or that I am maybe really alone in this indeed. That the lack of appreciation, even if there is self-love, the lack of external appreciation, I'm not saying external validation, but external appreciation, it's different. If that is not there, then it is still very hard to keep going.